Okay, Miss Lystra, maybe you can chime in on Muthoni's contribution.
Yeah, sure. What I want to say is I always think of the grassroots individuals. She was saying before that a lot of policies are made from the top down, but I see so much roots formed within the community and the grassroots organizations that exist, and pretty much addressing the direct needs that immediately impacts the individual. Africans and Caribbean people naturally, we have an entrepreneurial spirit. We are very entrepreneurial, and sometimes we don't need that much to get us started in a small business or any little project that we want to do. And it'll be really a good thing to see the diaspora formulate something more constructive that can actually touch base with that. I've gone to a lot of events where I've seen them raise money on the spot for a particular project that they may be doing back home within that particular community. It would be great to see something more formalized, like these susus that I spoke about before, where as diasporas, this is something they're doing all year long within the groups that they have individually. I think groups, small groups, large groups, many groups are important because everyone has different needs and they could directly impact something that's going on within their community. So I'm all for the multiple groups and effectively helping individuals to leverage their income or to put a school into a community or something that could make their community better. All right. So the diaspora, I definitely would like to see it more organized and structured, that you can actually go to an institution and say, I want to contribute to this particular cause that you have, because the entities already exist. So.
All right, you're pro for that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the diaspora circle that we have. We have the UK circle and we have the US. Maybe you can share with us the formation of the circles and who they reach out to and how they came into formation of being.
Well, they have a varied history. In fact, we probably are not the right people to give a background on them.
Yeah, general overview maybe.
But generally, at least up until I joined, I know that there was that need for Kenyans overseas to feel that they can trust themselves. And a lot of my friends who are members said, this is great, because a lot of times banks come from Kenya. They've got their own organization. They've set the agenda, profit-making rates. They'll open an account. They'll give you a loan when they feel like. So Kenyans, at least that I know, said this is the greatest idea. We can now get together, have funds in our own organization, and give loans to ourselves. Now, if we're able to form relationships with banks, which, for example, the UK and the US circle have formed, then we can negotiate as a large group as opposed to one individual negotiating. So they've succeeded on that front. There's been some challenges here and there, but it's working quite well. So I'm sure at some point you'll be able to invite the executives of both circles and any other circles around the world, and they'll be better placed to give you, the history, background, how they got together, the challenges, what they're doing now, the programs they have, how to join, and so on and so forth. So I won't anybody can go to the website and that information is there. Okay. But when I start to speak now, they might accuse me of speaking for them. So, but as a general former diasporan, I would say it's exciting. Of course, there's that question of, how much money can I get? How fast can I get it? Yeah. And as you know, especially after you've lived out there for a long time, you get very impatient. You want your loan within 7 days. You don't want to be given the runaround. Sometimes it's taken a bit long to get these things done, but they're getting done.
All right, wonderful. Ms. Njeri, what has been the feedback on the ground about the circles?
Well, like I'd say, just like Robinson, we may not be the best place to speak about it because, number one, I'm not even a member of that circle. I think we're all saying the same thing in terms of like what Lystra is saying. grassroots upwards. This is how I envisioned, or rather my understanding of when they come together as a circle, then they can clearly look at themselves as the grassroots. Come up with your issues, put it together in a system that works. Then if one circle works, that can be multiplied elsewhere. And once that happens and they established a good working relationship with the government and private sector here, go through all the things that need to be done to establish a system that's well run, then you can replicate it. And so that's really the point. Not that we're saying that all circles need to come together or one body. That's not what we're saying. We appreciate that the diaspora are diverse. And they're diverse because even where they live is different.
Okay.
So that we appreciate. But we need to find at least one way that is working, that can be replicated. Then we stop having a lot of gray area with how we deal with the diaspora. And again, we also want the government to understand this is the way we can deal with them. So I totally appreciate what Muthoni is saying.
Yeah.
We need to appreciate their needs.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to take the initiative. And that's really it.
Okay. And moving on from the circles and into financial institutions, what's the sort of cooperation between, let's say, you come back to Kenya, and you need to get a loan or you need to open a bank account locally. How do you connect that and sort of liaise with the bank that you've already established out there in the diaspora? How does that work, and what has been the experience on the ground?
Well, I'm probably best placed to answer that because I came, came back to Kenya. I'm still back and forth.
Yeah.
About a year ago, and I tell you, Linda, Njeri, and my friends out there in the U.S., it can be a challenge. First, you don't have a credit history here. They're looking me up, saying, "Robinson, who? Hold up, give us your ID." They go to my records and they find I left this country 20 years ago. And then they confuse me with Robinson Gidai. Your Excellency, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was supposed to be me. They got up there in Washington. But anyway, that's a different story. And they had to verify that I was not Robinson Gidai trying to get a loan. So there are those issues of verifying identity because we've been there for too long. You never plan to come back.
Yeah.
Secondly, you don't have a credit record. Thirdly, maybe you misplaced your documentation. Now, you try to get new documentation, which was actually my case. My old ID was had kind of fallen off the planet. I got a new ID, but some of my records are in my old ID. So there was a question of integrating all of that. And then lastly, you feel a bit lost. When you go to a bank here, there's a lot of relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you don't just open the account and then come for a loan the next day. They want to see how you operate the account, how you're paying your bills. And you don't know all that. I mean, I'm used to a system where they, in the US, they just pull up your file, they see how you've been paying your other bills with other banks, and they decide, that's a yay or nay in about a day.
Yeah.
But overall, I overcame those challenges, and it all comes back to information. I would encourage Kenyans that live abroad to travel back home more often, open accounts early, not with one bank, several banks. Send money to those accounts regularly. Apply even for credit facilities, even if it's a small one.
Yeah.
One of them, for example, with one of the banks locally, is backed by a CD. Since they're not going to give you a loan, or they're going to have trouble verifying your employment abroad, if you put down 100,000 minimum, which is what they want, they'll give you a credit card that has 100,000. And there are those kind of products in the US anyway, or the UK and France and Germany. So we are familiar with that.
Yeah.
What else? So there's the downside and the upside. Overall, some banks were very eager. CFC, Stanbic, for example, Chase Bank, for example, KCB and others, and cooperative bank also, very eager for you to come. You've come back home. Welcome. In fact, we have this product. Don't worry, we'll give you a credit card. Do you have at least a little something going, a little business or a job? Yes, okay. Something about all of it because they know you have the potential. They know you've been exposed, and in some cases, maybe a little. I'm going to say. Financially responsible, because they know you've managed your money well, you've come back, you're organized, you just want a stepping stone to settling down.
All right.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel. Things can be tough at the beginning, but in about 6 months, one is always able to say, yes, I'm back home and I can enjoy the fruits of this country.
All right. Can we not
I'd like
rid... Yes.
Oh, I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Lystra. No worries.
I just want to contribute a little to that if possible. The relationships that we've had with some of the institutions here, including the banks and so forth, is they will not lend to certain individuals which they consider at risk. So what they would do is they would forward that individual to our organization, and we would go through a vetting process where we will give an individual a loan after we screen them and work with them in a very flexible way to ensure they can pay the money monthly back to us. That way, establishing credit for at least 6 months to a year. At that point, our documentations and records are given to the bank to show that this person is able to pay and they've paid consistently. So now we've actually vetted them and they can now become marketable to that bank. So it's great if you have that relationship with the bank, and they may even be a part of a foundation that they lend you money to. They lend money to you to be able to support that individual. But you then go through the work of vetting them, collecting interest from them and so forth, and they become comfortable with the system and how it works, and then now they can go to mainstream banking.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if there's something like that there, but...
Okay, what I want to ask you is maybe how were you able to establish that sort of link of trust between your organization and the banks there?
Well, I think it's our past history, our record. We had like 96 repayment, and our organization only worked with women. And we found that when the woman controls the funding, she literally takes care of the entire family. So we would give women the loan. We had 96 repayment rate, and I worked with them myself to do an intake process, find out what their capability is, as opposed to what they're asking for. What can they actually do? And gradually work them into the process. If they may take a loan for 6 months and they have proven that they can handle more, then they can come back for another loan, maybe even double the amount. So this created a track record. So we used our documentation, our narratives that we had, and our track record that we have had to go to the bank and say, these are who our clients are. We want to make them marketable to you. We want to get them prepared to be able to do mainstream banking with you. Can you help us? So they may give us a loan at not a very high interest rate, and then we now take that money to support them. Plus we also receive grants and fundings from other organizations.
All right, wonderful. As we wind up, Robinson, Njeri, do we have that sort of trust established by the diaspora organizations out there?
I think just to add on to what Lystra is saying, I think it lends credence to what I was saying earlier on about, forming systems that can work. And this is how she's giving a very good example, which I think can be copied or rather replicated by the Kenya Diaspora Circle.
Okay.
Somebody's been saving up with you for a number of years. They have got this kind of credit record with the circle. Those kind of records can be used to make the process much easier. It doesn't have to take 6 months for you to be able to get a loan, because then you have some credit history with a body that represents Kenyans out there. And if the government can trust what they're saying, or private sector can trust what they're saying, then it makes the landing back home a lot softer. I don't know what you think, Robinson.
Absolutely. In fact, that issue of trust has been the main stumbling block for decades. I mean, I love my relatives, don't get me wrong, and I hope they're watching this. I love you all, but, when we used to send money, it would not be channeled to the correct users.
Okay.
I don't know why. I mean, well, I know why. I mean, they felt entitled. After all, they paid my airline ticket and high school fees and education for so many years. So within family, there was that lack of trust. But now, with this new setup, there's that, realization that, we've got to trust ourselves at some point. There's been those problems in the past, but let's go beyond that.
Okay.
Let's find a way to cooperate, especially because we're doing this on a professional level. So you're not worried that if you send your money to an organization that it's going to disappear. No. They have insurance. They have, the rules and regulations. They're being watched not only by the Kenyan authorities, but also by the United States, because they do have a registered office in any city, USA. And that's what the Kenyans in Minnesota are now considering, setting up something in their own region. They'll be vetted by the local authorities, and the Kenyans will not feel inhibited or scared of sending their money to them.
Okay.
And the things that everyone mentioned here, speed, getting things done quickly, doubling the amount you can borrow over time, trust, and then that trust can be transferred to a bigger bank, be it any of the banks here, or even some of the banks like Cupid, Lystra said, in the US or whatever they are. It could be France or the UK. So that key word, that trust element, sometimes is more powerful than contracts that are written on paper.
True.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So I encourage and congratulate both the SACCO in the United Kingdom and the one in the US and others that are coming up. But there's many small community organizations
that are coming up
are already there. They're just not called SACCOs. In the US, among Kenyans. The sways that she talked about.
Yeah.
If you go to every city in the US, there's at least 3 or 4 women's groups. There's 3 or 4 men's groups. There's 3 or 4 youth groups coming together and doing, financial transactions and loaning each other money.
Oh, yeah.
So they are there.
Oh, yeah.
They just need to tap into a bigger group so they can become nationally recognized.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, panelists. Lystra Cupid joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Robinson Gichuhi and Ms. Njeri Kierieni from the Diaspora Media Group. I have with me the president and the director. We have had a very insightful discussion here on point of view focus on diaspora.
Muthoni. Don't forget.
Oh yeah. And we had Muthoni also from Atlanta, Georgia. We've had a very insightful discussion here on point of view diaspora focus. We have had very revealing sentiments from all our panelists on the issues of finance and the diaspora and their contribution to national development. I've been your host, Linda Kroeger. This is Point of View. Keep it TVC.